welcome to Register on Track for the Faculty of Health. It's so nice to have you here tonight. And today we're going to be talking a lot about course selection and registration and getting ready for June 7th, registration day. And before we begin, I know lots of folks will be joining us from kind of all over the country and the world tonight, but right now myself and the other presenters on the webinar are joining from Mi'kmaq, so also known as Nova Scotia. And soon in the fall, you're going to be here with us as well, which is so exciting. And so we're going to start this session with a land acknowledgement for Mi'kmaq. Dalhousie University operates in the unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq, Wolastoqey, and Pescopemawd peoples. These sovereign nations hold inherent rights as the original peoples of these lands, and we each carry a collective obligations under the Peace and Friendship Treaties. Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 recognizes and affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights in Canada. We recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have enriched that part of Mi'kmaq known as Nova Scotia for over 400 years. And I'd encourage you as you're kind of preparing to come to DAL to take some time and learn a bit more about what this means and about this space and land that you're coming to as well. Just a quick introduction for myself. My name is Catherine. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a student success advisor at the Bissett Student Success Center at DAL. And I also graduated from DAL, so I did a Bachelor of Science here as well. I have a few photos on the screen just to get to know me a little more. So on my top left, I just have my headshots there. So that's what kind of I look like on a good day. And then on the top right, I have Lola, so one of my cats, and she's like basking in the sun. She is very confident. She loves the sun. She loves attention. And then underneath her in the bottom right is Bambi. She's hiding under a chair. That really sums up her personality. She's a little more shy, a little more nervous, and often hiding somewhere, typically away from Lola, her sister. And you might see them tonight. She's already walked by, so keep your eye out for that too. And then in the bottom left, we just have a picture of me gardening. This year, this May doesn't feel as warm as others, but normally at this point, I'm outside trying to repot my seedlings and grow all those things. Little behind this year, but it's definitely what I'm going to be spending most of my summer doing, which I'm really excited about. And just to go over some of the kind of Zoom features, first off, when you entered this session is being recorded, so that recording will be added to YouTube, and you'll be emailed a link to the recording and then a copy of the slides as well. So you'll have access to all of this information afterwards. And as we go along, if you have questions, we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end. And so if you went to the bottom of your Zoom screen, you'd have a box, the Q&A button, and the question and answer box will pop up. You can type your questions into that text box and click send. Now, if you don't want your name associated with your question, you can click to send anonymously, and then you will show up as anonymous when you ask your question. Your question will then go to myself and the other panelists in the room, and will be either answered out loud or by text. So either you can ask them throughout or save them till the end where we'll go through them. That's a little bit of our kind of housekeeping, and this is our agenda for tonight. So we're going to do a bit of a welcome to DAL and then really dive into selecting courses and getting prepared for June 7th, and then talking about different supports available to you as a DAL student. And first off, I just have a welcome from my team to all of you here tonight. And so I will play it in just a moment.
Welcome to DAL!
Okay, so that was just a little welcome. And I hope you can really tell from that the energy that these folks have. And so we're all so excited to welcome you to DAL. We're excited to have you come in the fall. And we're just really, really excited for September, the energy there. And there's so much fun and exciting things going on. So just a little welcome there. And then when you're thinking about DAL, like some things to think about, some things we always want to know. So when you meet with your advisor or you're chatting with someone, what are you most excited about when you're thinking of coming to DAL? What made you decide that you wanted to come to the East Coast, that you wanted to come to Dal as your school. And then with that, kind of, are there any challenges you're anticipating? So as I said, we'll go over some supports, but is there anything that you're looking for help with? Is there anything you can get connected to now? And then there are lots of different ways to tailor your degree and your experience here at Dal. And so what do you want to do while you're here at Dal? How are you going to make the most out of your time with us? And I'm inviting current student on now to talk a little about how she's made the most of her time here at Dal. Oh, oh, 1 second. Okay. I think we might have lost our student, so we're going to jump into wonderful. Hi.
Hello. Hello, everyone. My name is Mara, and I am going into my third year at Dal in kinesiology. And I'm super excited for you guys to all join the Dalhousie community. And the campus community involvement I have is in the Kin Society, Dal Outdoors, and Heart for Heart. And Dal Outdoors and Kin Society are some of the more bigger societies, and it's just a really good space I really recommend getting into societies to get to know classmates and get to know other people that share hobbies with you for example, with Dal Outdoors, you can experience going on hikes, surfing, and more stuff around Halifax, like going walks to the Point Pleasant. And Heart for Heart is another club that I take part in where I've met a lot of my friends and like-minded people that are interested in cardiology. And my favorite class is kinesiology anatomy that I took in the fall semester. I really enjoyed learning all of the muscles and bones and really getting into the more smaller stuff that I didn't get to know in high school. And I really liked the labs that we had every week. I felt like it was very active, hands-on, applied learning. And some advice that I have for first year is to get to know your classmates and professors. So sitting down next to someone in class and starting a conversation, and you never know where you're going to find a friend, and maybe initiating those types of study groups. And during the first week, there's a lot of, they call it O-Week events that I really recommend attending because, again, you never know where you're going to meet someone that you really get along with. And something that I found is that you'll be your most successful when you really take care of your well-being and stuff like that. So whether that be like getting good sleep and just focusing on your health to make sure that you have a good social and school balance. Yeah, some other things that I wanted to just touch on is just like truly just being yourself and putting yourself out there, and don't be afraid to like talk to your academic advisors to ask questions and get help, especially when it comes to registration. You want to make sure you're in the right classes and set up for success. And getting to know the registration website and how to navigate it to avoid any stress on the day of your registration. It is stressful, but it gets easier each year as you do it, and just being as organized as you can. And something that I really found useful last year is the how-to videos that they provide that go over how to use the CRN and all of those details that you'll later find out what are. And any last things, I think that's everything I have. Just truly just be yourself. It's super fun. You'll get really engaged and figure out what works well for you and what clubs you really enjoy. And yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I love that piece of advice too around really finding that healthy balance and prioritizing your mental health and your well-being and sleep. It can be hard. That can be sometimes the thing to sacrifice, but that's some really great advice and kind of sticking to yourself too. And hopefully with this presentation, you'll find the registration process slightly less stressful, which is hopefully one of our goals here tonight. So thank you very much. And I will now pass it over to some of your faculty advisors in.
You want to go first, Heidi?
Yes.
Since I'll go, I guess I'm first on the list. My name is Heidi Tracy Bailey, and I am one of two student services administrators, which is a big, long title. Most students will just know us as advisors in the School of Health and Human Performance. So if anybody on the call is in health promotion, kinesiology, therapeutic recreation, or recreation management, I am one of two advisors that you can check in with to ask about pretty much anything.
Awesome. Thanks. I'll go next. My name is Lindsay Curry, and I am the other Student Services Administrator in the School of Health and Human Performance. So students will see either one of us. Sometimes if one of us is away, they can see the other person, and we sort of work together that way. I think one of the things that one of the main messages I would say is absolutely reach out anytime that you need help. Even if you just want to do some planning around being your best, right? Thriving the most that you can in university. It doesn't always have to be that you have a problem to come and chat with us. It could be that you want to set a goal or explore some of those ways to get engaged, like Maura was talking about, or even just to look at your options in your degree program. If you're, thinking about exchange or maybe doing an honors research program as part of your degree, then those are things that we can start talking about even as early as year one. Even things like certificates can be built into a lot of our programs. So just want to encourage you to reach out, but especially if you do need help, because we're really there to support you. I think all of us are very excited to have you join Dal and to meet you and help you through your time at Dal. So reach out anytime. Thanks so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Renee. I am the advisor with the School of Health Sciences. If you are signed up for the ultrasound program, rad tech, respiratory therapy, or nuclear medicine, I will be the advisor for all four of those programs. You can reach out to me anytime now and right up until the beginning of the year. You can reach out with any question, and if I'm not the person that knows the answer to it, I'm sure I can find someone that can. I work very closely with Colleen Fleming, who you're probably more familiar with, as Colleen is the admissions coordinator at the school, and I'm going to pass it over to her next to introduce herself. And I'm looking very forward to meeting you all in the fall, and you'll see a lot of me during orientation week as well. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I've already looked through the list and I know that there's some health science students here. So welcome. My name is Colleen. I'm the admissions and program officer at the school. My pronouns are she, her. And I look forward to seeing all of your nice faces in September. And you can definitely reach out to me with any questions that you have as well.
Wonderful, thank you. So that's a few of your supports in the Faculty of Health. If you're here from a different school, I'll email out the kind of contact information for you as well. But thank you very much for that welcome. And now we're really going to jump into course selection and getting ready for June 7th. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is some key things to do before selecting courses and registering. So before we get too into it, all of the information that we're going to be going over today is going to be from our registration website. So if you go to dal.ca/registration, you'll look at a page that looks like this, and we're going to be going through those steps together. And the page has other great resources too. So we're just going to look at step 1 first. And on step 1, there are a few things to do. So the first being that before you can register, you do need to pay your $200 admission deposit. You need to activate your net ID and password, set up your Dalhousie email. I would encourage you to kind of bookmark or take a look at the important dates page before you come in the fall and review the new student checklist. And then finally, you'll want to check your prepare for registration status on Dal Online before registering on June 7th. And we'll go through what some of these look like too. The first being the net ID. So I mentioned setting up your net ID. You want to activate that And your Net ID is what you will use to log into Dal Online, where you'll register. It's also used to access your email account and different online platforms at Dal. And so it's 2 letters followed by 6 numbers. And you can find your Net ID by going to password.dal.ca and clicking activate your Net ID. And now you might have also heard of the term of like student ID or B0 number or BOO number, and that's separate. So your student ID, your B0 and 0 number, that's a number that starts with B0, and that's what's found on your acceptance letter. So for example, if you went to go meet with Renee or Heidi or someone here tonight, they would likely ask you for your B0 number. So that's what they might use to look you up in their system. Whereas your Net ID is what you're going to use to access different digital platforms and spaces on campus. So it's really important. You will need your Net ID activated before you can register. So something you can go ahead and do now. The other thing that you'll want to do before June 7th when you register is check your registration status. And you can do this by logging into Dal Online. To log into Dal Online, you have to have your Net ID activated. So you would log in, you would then click Web for Students. And then you're going to click Registration on the menu. And then you would click Prepare for Registration. Once you've done that, it's going to ask you again, and you're going to click Prepare for Registration again. You're going to select the term. So in this case, it would be fall 2025-2026. And then you would press Continue. And hopefully it would look something like this. So you should see when you press Continue, a screen with 3 green ticks, and then 1 tick the exclamation mark in that red color that says your time ticket, do not allow registration at this time. So providing you have those 3 green ticks, you should be good to go on registration day. The exclamation mark at the bottom is just letting you know what time your registration opens, which for you would be June 7th at 12 p.m. So hopefully this all looks good. If you're having any difficulties, you can reach out to the registrar's office just to confirm what it's supposed to look like. Now, it's important to check your Prepare for Registration status, but you only want to check it for the term that you're starting. So if you're starting in the fall, you just want to check your fall term. If you are starting in the fall and you check your winter semester, you're not going to get those 3 green ticks. But that's just because you're starting in the fall. So you want to make sure you check the fall or the semester that you're starting in for those 3 green ticks. That's what's the important piece here. And once you've done that, you've got your Net ID, you've paid your deposit, you've got you've checked your registration status, you'll go ahead and start looking for your courses. And before we get too much into course selection, just a note if there are any transfer students. If you are a transfer student, the process, whether that's you think you might get credits from your high school experience or you're coming from another institution, the process to get transfer credits is not automatic. So you do need to apply for your transfer credits, and you can do that now by going to the website and submitting an application. Now, if you are coming from a different post-secondary institution, you are actually able to register now. So you don't have to wait till you get credits before registering. You can go ahead and register now. So I would encourage you, if you are a transfer student, or if you think you might get credits, to reach out to your advisor and have that conversation with them about what is the best kind of plan for your degree, what are the best courses for you to take. But I'd encourage you to apply and get that process started now so you can register. And then you'll see, we talked a little already a bit about orientation, and you'll see over the summer, you'll get more emails and information about new to Dal programming. And just note that all of that stuff is still available to you as a transfer student. So please do still stay and still come to our orientation and programming as well. So the next step is that we're going to go to step 2 to find our courses. And to do this, we'll go and look at the course planning worksheet. So if you click the course planning worksheet link, it brings you to a page that looks like this, and you would select the school that you're in and be able to look at your worksheet. And so you can select your worksheet based on your program, and your worksheet would look something like this. So this is just an example, but the worksheet has pretty much everything you need to know in terms of choosing your courses and registering. So they have some information, the contact information, of who to contact if you have any questions. They will have a table about what courses to register for the fall and the winter, potentially the summer as well. They'll also have information about what things you might need to know before registering, or information about course selection or your options. There's also then a step-by-step guide on how to build a schedule and how to register. And then again, that contact information is there too. Similarly, this is one from the School of Health Sciences. So again, very similar, the same structure with that information on courses to take in the fall and winter, in this case, summer. And that keynote about needing to register for IPHE 4900 before registering for your other courses. So it's a great place to start and really use that to pick what courses you're going to take. And so for some folks, you will also see that you'll have an elective or two, or some choices in what you can take as well. So when you do have those options, some things that you'll want to think about is what subjects interest you. So maybe this is a subject you've loved in high school. Maybe you've developed a passion for it and you really want to study it in the classroom. Maybe it's something you've just always been a little curious about and want to learn more about. So keep that in mind when you're picking an elective or choosing between some courses. You also might want to think about what kind of learner are you. So do you want your classes in a row? What does the rest of your day look like? Do you want classes that might have more discussion and more conversation? Do you want maybe opportunities for more of that hands-on learning, more experience in a lab? And then how do you want to structure your day? So what are your other time commitments? What does the rest of your kind of day and week look like? And what do you have capacity for during the week? And with that, you'll want to think about workload. So to be considered a full-time student, you have to take a minimum of 9 credit hours. So a typical DAL course is 3 credit hours, and you'll have to take a minimum of 9 credit hours a semester to be considered full-time. And some things such as scholarships, student loans, kind of funding, residence, varsity, potentially student visas, all might require you to be a full-time student. So if you're thinking of being part-time, I'd encourage you to kind of check that out and speak to someone about that. And then a full course load that's kind of the maximum number of courses you take, is 15 credit hours a semester. So that's typically 5 courses. What you'll notice though is that when you look at that grid on your course planning worksheet, there will be 6 courses in the fall and 6 courses in the winter. That's because you'll have a course called IPHE 4900, and that stands for Interprofessional Health Education Portfolio. And this course is 0 credit hours. So it's a non-credit course. It is required. We'll talk more about the timetable, but you'll see that it's offered Tuesdays and Thursdays. You won't have to attend every Tuesday and Thursday, but you will get lots of notice ahead of time on when you'll be meeting and what will be expected of those meetings as well. But just know when you see those 6 listed, you are still taking the 15 credit hours because that extra course is 0 credit. And so if you are considering not taking a full course load, that's understandable, but I'd encourage you to meet with an advisor to talk about what that is going to look like for you and kind of the impacts that will have if you're considering doing less than 15 credit hours. And so take the time and look through that course planning worksheet, get familiar with the courses, those kind of tips and tricks on there, and then use that to be able to look up the courses and actually map out where they're going to be. And so that's our next step, which is actually creating your schedule. So you'll find on your course planning worksheet on the last 2 pages, there will be a blank fillable PDF available for you to use. So I know some folks like to print it, but you also can type it out too. And this really allows you to plan out exactly when all of your courses are going to be. It gives you a full picture of what each week will look like for you. And then at the bottom of the sheet, you can record the CRN, so the important information you'll need to register on June 7th. So to be able to know when classes are, you will need to look at the timetable. So you'll have your blank PDF and then you'll go ahead to the timetable and look up when your courses are. So the first thing when you go to the timetable, you'll be asked what terms you want to look at. So here I've just selected 2025-2026 fall and 2025-2026 winter. You can definitely pick one at a time or look at them both at the same time. And then under locations, I've selected Halifax, online and other, and that just allows me to see all of the courses available to you. And then in the subject, you can type in what course you are looking for. So you can use the timetable. It has all of the logistical information about a course, such as when it's offered, what day, what time, who your instructor is, where it is, all of those things you can find on the timetable. And so say we type in a subject here and we've typed in IPHE, you will then get something, a screen that looks like this, which I know right now might feel a little daunting, but we're going to walk through together exactly what each piece and each column means so that it feels a bit more familiar to you. So the first thing that we see, or that I want to highlight, is the course code and the name. So right at the top in that circle, we have there the course code, IPHE 4900, and then the name there. And so each course will have that right there at the top, so you know exactly what you're looking for. Next to that, we have a play button now. It looks like a play button. It's like a triangle, a circle with a triangle. And if you click that, that's going to bring you to a description of the course. So it's going to give you more information about what to expect in the course, information about the format, and anything else that you might want to know. So it gives you a bit more detail about it, which can be really helpful. Next, over to the right here, we have when this course is offered. So this course is offered in the fall, and so you know it's from September to December. And then back to the left, we have the section. So you can see in this column, you can see what section it is. So under here, we have this sandy color. This is all LEC, so it's all a lecture. And then I've just added a screenshot from two other courses so you know what to look for. But this kind of mint green color here, this is a lab. So you can see there it says lab. And then this one over here is a tutorial, so a toot. So you can use both the colors and the words here to distinguish between the lab, lecture, and tutorial. And we will talk a little after about what each of those things mean as well. You can also see next to the LEC on the other side, you have an O2, for example. This O2 is saying that this is section 2. And then we have section 3, section 4, section 5, and so on. Next, we have the days, and you can see here Mondays, you'll see an M for Mondays, a T for Tuesdays. You can see this is offered on a Tuesday, a W for Wednesdays. Now, Thursdays you would think would be another T, but it's actually an R. So this R here is standing for Thursday, and then it would be an F for Friday. So we know that lecture section 1 is on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then the times, it's offered in military time. So this is 4:05 to 5:55 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then the location. So first we have the campus. So it's on Carleton campus. It's in the Collaborative Health Education building, and it's in room C 140, 150, and 170. And then here we have the enrollment information. So this lets us know how many seats are available and how many spaces are filled. So that first column, max, that is the maximum number of people that can be in the lecture. The next column is the current number of people in the course right now. The next is the number of seats available. And then here, this column is the wait list. So if your course does have a wait list, how many people on the wait list would be here? And then the next column is the percentage the course is full. That's kind of all of that information there. And then it's a bit dizzy, but there was kind of a method to going through this, but we'll go back to the left again to look at the CRN. So your CRN is your course reference number, and that's that really key piece that you're going to actually use to register. So the blank schedule that we looked at before, that has a space at the bottom for you to put in your CRN. And so what you'll see is that each different section has a different CRN. So it has its own unique CRN. So if you were trying to register for a particular lecture section, you would take the CRN, record that, and you'll use that to register. And then over here, right to the far left, we have notes. So it's really important to check this notes column because it often has a lot of really useful information. And so in this case, what we can see in these notes is that different sections are restricted to different students. So for example, section 01 is restricted to health administration students. So if you were a health administration student and it's section 01, we know here this is section 01. And so this is the lecture section that you would be registering for. And so you would take this CRN here, 11665, and you would use that to register on registration day. And we'll talk about how you use that. But that's how you kind of pick which section you're going to do based on the CRN. You'll also see we have the note, which is really handful, but we also have this R too. So what that R does, it stands for restricted. So again, is it's telling us that this section is restricted. And so if we clicked on one, it would bring us up to a notice that looks like this. So it's telling us this course is restricted to students in health professions who are majoring in health promotion, kinesiology, leisure studies, management, and recreation. So that if you click an R, it'll tell you that information too. And then finally, we have credit hours. So like I said before, this particular course is 0 credit hours, but typically you will see courses being 3 credit hours. And so when you're thinking about your workload, knowing the max is 15, you want to kind of collect, if you're looking to take 15 credit hours a semester, get 15 hours worth. 15 credit hours worth of courses. So right here we have the 0, and you'll see that your other courses will be kind of 3 or 6. And then finally, over to the right, we have the instructor information. So this column here is just letting us know who's teaching the course. And so if you did have any questions about the course or wanted to get in touch with the instructor, you can use that information there to get that contact information. And that is kind of an overview of the timetable, at least what you see here. And we're going to take a look at some of the terms you'll see in a description, just so you're familiar with that when you're going to register as well. So now imagine if we've pressed the play button here and it's brought us to a description. It won't have brought you to this description because this one is for statistics, but I'm using this one because it highlights all 3 of the terms that I wanted to point out today. So we have right at the top, we have the course code and the course title right here. We have then the number of credit hours this course is. We have an overview of the course and what you'll be going over and learning, and some notes and information about the format. At the bottom here, we have the word prerequisite underlined. And a prerequisite is a course that you need to take before being able to take this one. So in this case, for Stats 1060, you need to have done academic or advanced grade 12 mathematics or pre-calculus or equivalent before being able to take Stats 1060. Underneath that, we have cross listings. So a cross listing, that is a course that is shared with another department. So in this case, Stats and Math share this course. So it is exactly the same course taught at exactly the same time. It just has 2 different names. And so one little trick is that if you went to register for Stats 1060, for example, and it was full, you could check out Maths 1060 and it might have space because they are exactly the same course. And then underneath that, we have exclusions. And so this means that this course is too similar to another course for you to be able to get credit for taking both courses. So in this case, if you took Stats 1060 and then you tried to take an exclusion, so say you tried to take Management 1501, you wouldn't receive credit for both Stats 1060 and Management 1501 because those courses are exclusions with each other. And so that's why when you're going through and picking your courses, it's always good to take a read of the description because one, it gives you a good idea of what to expect in the class and it's like a little bit of a teaser, but also to take a look and see if there are any prerequisites or cross listings or exclusions that you might need to be aware of as well. And then we'll talk a little about a lecture, lab, and tutorial. So the lecture, that was that sandy color you saw on the timetable that stood for LEC. So that's a lecture, and that's typically if you think of a movie or a kind of stereotypical TV show that you've watched that shows a university or a classroom at a university, it's often someone talking at the front, typically from what I've seen, using a blackboard or a whiteboard. And so that's typically what a lecture is going to look like here. It's going to be the largest section of your course. It's going to be professor led, and there's not going to be as much interaction. So that's your lecture. And then some courses will have a lab. And so that will be a smaller group of students from your lecture, and that the content, it's going to be more hands-on, and it's going to really complement what you're learning in your lecture. And that's typically run by a teaching assistant. And then you have a tutorial, a toot. And that again is a smaller group of students from your lecture, a great way to get to know your peers. And it's often discussion based or problem solving based on the lecture content as well. And it's also typically run by a teaching assistant. So what you'll see is that some courses, like IPHE, will just have a lecture. There won't be a lab or a tutorial. Some courses will have a lecture and a lab, some will have a lecture and a tutorial, and some will have a lecture, lab, and tutorial. So they can have any of these three components. And so if you see underneath the course code and name on the timetable that you see there is a lec and a tutorial, or any kind of combination of these three, you'll want to register for one of each. So I always tell students you want to register for one of each color that you see under the course code and the title. It isn't, if you go and start registering for the lecture and it has a lab too, it's not, the system's not going to let you register without registering for all components of the course. So it's important just to know what's being offered there as well. And then online courses. So you'll see that we do have some online courses here at Dal, and there are three types of online courses. So the first one is synchronous. And so that's a course that requires you to be online in class at a specific day and time each week. And those times are scheduled in Atlantic Daylight Time. We then have asynchronous. So this is a course that does not require you to be online at a particular day or time. And often the material is posted, but it's up to the student to then make time to review that material and content. And then we have a combination. So a course will be delivered using both synchronous and asynchronous methods. So it might be that you're required to attend class some of the time, but not all of the time, or there will be kind of odd days that you'll have to go to class, but the rest might be asynchronous, for example. And so the way that you can know what type of course you'll have is through the location section of your timetable. So I've just pulled up two examples here. The first one is SAS 1400. And this here you can see under the location, it says online and it's asynchronous. So again, the material will be posted. It will be your responsibility to learn. And then we have SAS 1400. And so this is an example of a synchronous session. So we can see this particular lecture section is online and synchronous. So you do need to be online on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the times they've asked. And then this is an older example of a combination. So we have here that this particular course is online and asynchronous, but there are certain days where the course will be synchronous and you'll have to be online. So you'll see a few different, with our online options, a few different options to choose from if you wanted to take an online course. And so when you're thinking about your schedule, you've used the course planning worksheet to understand what courses are required. And then you've used the timetable to look at when these courses are offered and to try and fit them into your schedule. And when you're doing that, it's a bit of a jigsaw, but you'll have some questions just that you might want to think about when you're creating your schedule. So what time of the day do you learn best? Do you prefer mornings? Do you prefer evenings? And what time of the day do you study best? Do you want your classes back to back, or do you want space in between? And have you made time for breaks? Do you have time for lunch and dinner if you're going to be on campus during those periods? Do you want to take an online course, and what type of online course? And if the course is online, do you have a quiet time and space to be able to focus on this? And then too, knowing you're not just a student when you're here at Dal, so do you have other commitments? So are you potentially working? Are you childcare? Like, what else is going on that it's going to be taking up some of that time as well? So when you're thinking of that schedule and using the timetable for that, these are just some questions to kind of bear in mind when you're creating that. And you will see that some courses might be full. So current Dalhousie students have been able to register for courses in March. And so sometimes courses can fill up either on the day or before registration. This really applies to the electives. And so when you are thinking of selecting courses and creating that schedule, it can be good to find either an alternative course or even just an alternative section that might work for you. So, for example, you've picked one tutorial, but maybe you have a backup tutorial just in case that one's full that would also work with your schedule. So those are the kind of things to be thinking about when you're creating your schedule. And that means that before registration day, you have done a lot of these pieces. So hopefully registration day goes really smoothly for you. So before June 7th, you should have activated your Net ID and created your password. You should have checked your registration status on Dal Online, created the schedule for fall and winter using the academic timetable and your course planning worksheet, and then recorded those CRNs, so those course reference numbers for the courses that you want to take. And it's really important when you're creating that schedule to create a schedule for fall and for winter, because you can register for both fall and winter on June 7th. And so once you've done all of that, you've got your CRNs ready. On June 7th, you would log into Dal Online. You'd click Web for Students. You would click Registration. This time though, you would click Register for Classes. Again, you're going to click Register for Classes again. It just kind of wants to confirm. And then you're going to go ahead here and enter the term. So 2025-2026 fall and press Continue. And that will bring you to the registration page. And this is where the hard work of getting those CRNs is going to pay off. So you're going to go right at the top and click Enter CRNs. I know the Find Class function here is here, but you've taken the time to find the CRNs. I'd really encourage you to click here and press Enter CRNs. It's the most accurate way of registering for courses. So you click that, and then in this box here, you would type in your first CRN, and then you can click Add Another, and you can add all of the CRNs for that semester, and then click Add to Summary. And so for the IPHE course, that course you'll want to add the CRN first. So it's important that you add that CRN first to be able to then register for all the other courses. You click Add to Summary, and in the bottom left, you will see your summary. And so when you click Add to Summary, all of your courses under status will be pending. And so you haven't yet finished registering. And so you'll want to here at this bottom, press Submit. And then once you've pressed Submit, hopefully the status will all change to registered and you will be good to go. And then you'll be done, and then you just go back and do it again for winter. Now, you might press Submit and you might get an error. And so we'll talk a little about what that error might mean and what you can do about it. So I have a few potential errors on the screen. So one being that top one, available seats are held for waitlisted and the waitlist is full. So that's just letting us know that the seats you do see in this class are held for those students who are on the waitlist, and right now there isn't any space on the waitlist. We then have 18 on the waitlist. Select waitlisted action and hit Submit to add yourself to the waitlist. And so this is just you can join the waitlist and you would be number 18 on that waitlist, or 19. And then the bottom here is that you're missing a required course or grade. Review the course description. So that's where you go back and make sure you have the prerequisites for the course. You also might see if you don't register for IPHE first, you might get an error when you're trying to register for other courses because you need to register for IPHE first. It's what's called a co-requisite. So you need to register for that to be able to register for your other courses too. Now, if you did come into a course that is waitlisted and you're going to join the waitlist, here is how you do it. So you would go in the summary under action, you would click waitlisted here, and then you would go ahead and press Submit. And then what would happen is your status here would change from pending or error to waitlisted. It'll be in green. And on that prepare for registration page, if you got off the waitlist, you'd get a notification there. And you would then go in and you'd go click action and then web registered to add yourself to the class if you got off the waitlist. It is your responsibility though to keep checking the prepare for registration page to see if you got off that waitlist. And I would encourage you in the meantime to register in an alternative course. So a few things if a course is full. Particularly if it is a course available to everyone or an elective, it's good to have potentially a backup course in mind or a backup section in mind. So a lot of courses will offer more than one lecture section or more than one tutorial or lab. So is there an alternative one that would work with your schedule too? To keep checking the academic timetable over the summer because it does change. So even if a course is full now, space might become available later. And waitlists do exist. So if the course does have a waitlist, you can join the waitlist and hopefully get a spot if there's some movement in the course. And then you will complete your degree over multiple years. And so if it doesn't work this year, maybe it's an elective you could take another year. If it's one of those kind of core required courses that is full, connect with your advisor about that to talk about what that means. And even if it's not, you can still connect with your advisor to talk about that as well. And then finally, you'll want to check your schedule. So after all of that, before you log off and you're done, you'll want to go ahead and just make sure your schedule looks good. So hopefully you filled out that kind of blank schedule and you can just really just compare and make sure everything looks the same. Now, one thing that will trip people up sometimes is the system does allow you to register for a course that conflicts with another course. So you can register for 2 courses at the same time. The system will let you do that. So that's why you want to check your schedule and make sure all of your courses aren't overlapping. And just an example here, we have differential calc on Mondays. We've got the green tick, but then we have German for beginners. And this course conflicts with the differential calc. They're held at the same time. So if this was the case, you'd need to move one of those courses to be able to take both of them. So if you did find a conflict, go ahead, make sure you've registered for the right section and make sure on the timetable there isn't another option to move things around. But it's always good finally just to check your schedule and make sure everything looks good. Now, once you've done that for fall, you would want to go back and do it all again for winter. So you'll want to go back to select a term. This time you would put in 2025, 2026 winter, and then add all of your CRNs for winter, just like you did for fall. Press submit and you'd be good to go, making sure you've checked your schedule. One tip if you're trying to kind of distinguish between the two is that the CRNs for the fall start with a 1 and the CRNs for the winter start with a 2. And so you'll want to make sure you have the CRNs for the fall and your CRNs for the winter ready to go on June 7th. And if you did want to kind of go over this more, you needed more help on registration, there is also the Dal Online Help Center. So they have a bunch of videos on how to register, how to check your registration status, all of those things you can find if you just clicked help on Dal Online on the registration page. And this is something you have access to now. So you can even go ahead now if you wanted and check out some of those resources and videos that help prepare for June 7th. And that is really the registration process from the before you begin and the course planning worksheets all the way through to registering. And so we're going to change it up a little for a minute and talk about supports for you available here during your time on campus. And so I'm going to be going through a bunch of different services. There'll be their contact and the web information, but the biggest thing to kind of keep with this is that there are lots of people here to help you. And so hopefully you felt that at the start with all of the support and advice from your school here. And hopefully you'll feel that when you're on campus. There are so many people here, we're all excited for you to come. We're excited to help you. And even if you don't think we're maybe the right person to ask us, because we will likely know who the best person is. So really the biggest takeaway from this is there are lots of supports here at Dal. And so if you are looking for help, there's likely a support to help you. And so ask someone and you'll be able to be connected. And so the first support to talk about is financial services. So the Awards and Financial Aid Office is in the Registrar's Office, and they can help with scholarship and bursary funding. They can help with student loans and creating a budget. They have kind of access to temporary loans and bursaries for emergencies, and they can connect you with on-campus and community services to help assist you with financial issues. We then have the Registrar's Office. So the Registrar's Office houses a lot of different offices. So The kind of admissions and registration support is in the registrar's office. You can get your transcript through them. The transfer credits office is in the registrar's office, the awards, scholarships, and financial aid team, and confirmation of enrollment. What I'd like to say is anything that you see on Dal Online, often the registrar's office can help. So if you have a question about something you see on Dal Online, often the registrar's office can be a good place to start. They're also going to be open on registration day on Saturday from 12 till 4. So if you bump into a registration hour on Saturday, you can reach out to them for help on Saturday too. And next we have advisors. So you've met a few of them depending on your program tonight, but you can go to dal.ca/advising or the contact information on your course planning worksheet to know who the best person to reach out to there is. And they can help support you and make that successful transition to university life at Dal, help understand your program requirements and academic regulations, navigating and tailoring your degree to you, mapping out strategies to achieve your educational and career goals, and developing action plans to deal with academic or other difficulties. So they're a really great resource to connect with, and you'll have more opportunities in the summer and during the school year to get to know them more as well. We next have the Student Accessibility Center. So the Student Accessibility Center helps to work with students to reduce barriers they might face to the classroom, to exams, to campus and space. And so they can work with you in one-on-one appointments to help put in place accommodations to reduce those barriers. They can work with you to advocate on behalf and alongside of you to support your transition to Dal and during your time in your program. They can assist you in accessing disability-related funding and connect students with on and off-campus resources. So if you're coming from high school and you had an IEP or a learning plan, or if this is something you might need, they are available. They do take appointments in the summer. So I'd really encourage you to connect with them now and get something set up. And so if it's something you need, absolutely book an appointment, get it set up. So then in the fall, you are good to go and things are smooth. If it's something you're curious about or you think you might need, again, I'd encourage you to reach out to them and have that conversation about what help might look like. And I'd encourage you to do that now. So again, in the fall, you're all set up and good to go. But I'd really encourage you, if this is something you're interested in, curious about, want to set up, I would encourage you to do that now during the summer. We next have student health and wellness. So these are kind of like your family doctors while you're here with us at Dal on campus. And so you can have medical appointments with doctors and nurses. You can access Dal same-day counseling. You can speak with a social worker about problems of living. You can get your flu shots, prescription, medical testing done through student health and wellness on Studley campus. Next, we have professors. So your professors and instructors, typically every class will have a syllabus, and that is like a contract between you and your instructor. It goes over the expectations of class. And in the syllabus, there will be the instructor's contact information, and they'll often host office hours, and that information will be in the syllabus. And so connecting with your professors, if you have questions about an assignment, something you see in the syllabus, something that was talked about in class, but also if you want to learn more about their research or opportunities to get involved in the school or faculty, maybe you heard something in class that you're really interested about, they're a great person to connect with about learning more about what they're talking about, and just a chat to get to know them. They're a really great resource to help during your time here at Dal and really help with your learning too. Next, we have career services. So they can help with things like job search and academic and application preparedness, determining what you might want to do with your degree, what after graduation looks like. They have career counseling, which is really helping figure out what are your career goals? What is the best fit for you? They can help review a resume and your cover letter, and they offer a range of workshops on things like how to build a resume, how to network, stuff like that. So they're a great resource to use as your time here at Dal. Next, we have Studying for Success. So Studying for Success offers one-on-one appointments with study skills coaches, so they can work with you to develop your study skills. They're a great resource, particularly in that first semester, to just check in with, to go over your syllabi, to make sure you have a good plan and schedule of how you're going to manage your time. They're a really fantastic resource, and they are available, and they have kind of faculty specific coaches you can connect with as well. They also offer a range of workshops on things such as how to manage your time, procrastination, how to take a multiple choice exam, and they offer them pretty much every day of the week each semester. And then they also have tutors. So for like course specific things, you can get a tutor as well. So they're a fantastic resource to use to brush up on those study skills, to just have a bit of check-in about how courses are going and how your studying is going. Similarly, we have the Writing Center. So the Writing Center supports all students at all levels in all fields of study. So anything that you write at Dal, the Writing Center can help work with you there. So they offer one-on-one appointments to discuss your written work. And they can help provide feedback at any stage of the process. So whether that's you've got a question and you want help answering it, and you don't know where to start, all the way to you've written an essay and you'd like someone to review it with you. So they're a really fantastic resource, and that they can help you at any point of your writing, and I'd encourage you to connect with them. Next, we have the Black Student Advising Center. So this is a cultural hub of support, programs, events, resources for students of African descent at Dal and King's. And so they are on campus in 1321 Edward Street. And some of the things that BSAC does is they offer free tutoring in bio, math, chem, and writing support. They can help advocate and navigate campus with you and find resources and support based on your needs. And they also can help with finding funding sources both on and off campus. And then we have the Indigenous Student Center. So the Indigenous Student Center is also located in 1321 Edward Street. And it's a supportive environment for Indigenous students to gather, meet other students, and have access to supports and services. They also offer free tutoring and writing support in bio, chem, math, and stats. They also have various services that will come and drop and hold office hours in the center, including accessibility, health and wellness, library services. And they host a range of different programming, such as cultural events, educational and informational sessions, networking opportunities. And then they will help refer and navigate resources with you both on campus, and can help provide information about scholarships and bursaries. Next, we have the 2S LGBTQ+ advisor, Olivia. And so Olivia can help with accessing and referrals to gender affirming care. If you're help seeking a name or gender marker changes either at Dal or provincially, can help with navigating resources on and off campus, advocacy matters related to identity or gender expression. And if you just want to talk about your experiences, including any barriers you might face, you can go ahead and meet with Olivia. And then overall advancing access and equity to 2S LGBTQ+ students at Dal and King's. We then have the International Center. So the International Center is here. You can explore Dal's exchange and study abroad opportunities. They can help with student immigration, student visas, and filing Canadian taxes. They also can help with access to different English as an additional language supports and connecting you with the international community both on and off campus. And then finally, we have the Dal U app. So you can get the app on the Play Store or on the App Store, and that helps connect you to people, information, systems, announcements, everything you'll need. You can get kind of through the Dal U app. And right now it's great because it will help connect you with your peers and your fellow classmates. So there'll be different communities on there where you can meet people also joining in the fall or winter too. And so that was just some of the supports that are available to you as a Dal student. And again, the biggest takeaway is there are lots of different supports here at Dal, and so many people here and excited and ready to help you. So if you do need a support or you have a question, reach out to someone and they'll be able to help work with you for that. Now back to kind of why we're here, which is registration day. So registration does open Saturday, June 7th at 12 p.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. A few things to note is that your deposit payment it is required before registering, and it can take up to 48 hours to process. So it's something, if you want to do at least 2 days before June 7th. You will need to activate your Net ID and create a password before you're able to register. That's what allows you to log into Dal Online. And if you run into any difficulties on registration day, the registrar's office is open 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday to help answer any questions and troubleshoot any registration errors you might run into. And their contact details are there too. And then the next step, so I'd encourage you to check out dal.ca/new students. They have a new student checklist, some things to kind of get ready, some helpful tips, some orientation information, and just information for friends and family. So it's a great website to get familiar with as well. So that is the end of my presentation, and we'll jump then into questions. I will email this out, but just if you scan that QR code, it'll bring you to a survey of just really how this went. If you could fill that out, that would be lovely, but it will be emailed to you as well. And we'll switch over to questions. Okay.
Hi, Catherine. I just wanted to jump in and say that I was going through the Q&A, and there's quite a few questions for nursing. So maybe I couldn't answer some of them, so I was hoping you could help with a couple of those.
Yeah, I will take a look. So if you have questions for nursing, unfortunately, the nursing folks weren't available tonight. So I would encourage you to connect with nursing. I'll send you their contact information, but connect with them directly if you have any questions about the nursing program, I think is what I would say. Someone's asked where we can access this video of this recording to go over, so I'll email that to you either likely tomorrow, and so you'll have access to that. It'll also be on the page that you registered on as well.
So there's another question that says, what time does registration begin on June 7th? Did you see that one?
Yeah, so that begins on, it begins 12 p.m., so lunchtime on June 7th. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any questions. It looks like a lot of the questions left off in nursing. So I don't know if there's anything else folks want to share, but if not, that might be it if there aren't any more questions.
I was just gonna jump in and say that that's Atlantic time, because I know we have some confusion sometimes when I'm booking meetings about Atlantic versus what your time zone is. So just make note that that it's 12 p.m. Atlantic.
And there is a question here. Is it possible to go from kinesiology to med school? And if yes, are there specific courses required?
You want one of us to take that one, Catherine?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I could try, but I think you'd be better at it.
So the short answer is yep. Absolutely, you can go from kinesiology to med. We have lots of students that do it each year. Technically at Dal, you could go from any program to med. So because they don't actually require you have a specific program and they don't have specific courses that are required. So if you're thinking of Dal Med School, it could be any program, but obviously lots of different health programs, including kinesiology, are great background before going into med. If you're thinking of applying to med at a different school, then they may have very different requirements. So it would be a good idea to check there. But in terms of Dal Med, it can be any program, and Kinesis is definitely a great one. We've got lots of students that go on to medicine.
Wonderful. Thank
And
you.
the second part of that, so about courses and whatnot. most students will tend to choose some courses that will prep them from the MCAT. So it's a good idea to probably meet with an advisor even around year 2 as you're planning. If you're in KNEAS anyway, you have a lot of electives in years 3 and 4, so you can really kind of plot things out. And if you know already that med is kind of your destination where you hope to go, you can meet with an advisor as soon as this fall, and we can kind of help you plan and how to fit those things that you want to take into your electives.
Wonderful, thank you. And then the next question, when I look at the academic timetable, there are some courses that are full. What do I have to do for that course? I don't know if folks want to maybe speak about their specific kind of courses. Are they likely to be full? What happens if a required course is full?
Yeah, I can just jump in there. I mean, for us, I would say if it's a required course that's full, contact an advisor, because we can then talk to you about what the options are, and it may be that, we can help you get a spot in that course through working with the department or the prof or whatever. But it might be that it's not the end of the world if you don't take that course, and we can sub something else in. So I'd say that's probably the best bet. If it's an elective course though, and you could just pick a different one, that's always a good option. But when you're in doubt, always just chat with an advisor.
The same goes for our School of Health Science students as well. If there's a required course and you're having trouble registering for it, just reach out. Sometimes as you move through the program, some of the other courses you need an override, but you're not there yet, but you can always reach out.
Yeah, when in doubt, reach out. The next question, are there specific words to look out for to know what courses are required?
I'm just going to chime in and say I'm not quite sure I understand what that question is asking. Somebody else may know, feel free to chime in, but whoever asked that, if you have maybe a couple more details for clarification to put in another question, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, because I would say that ideally you're following your first year planning worksheet, or if you're a transfer student, then you've checked with an advisor to talk about which courses are specifically required or recommended for you to register in. And so if there's any confusion at all, again, I would just say that's what we're here for. So just touch base and we can help you out for sure.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but if in that table on your course planning worksheet there is a specific course listed and it doesn't say elective, then you're safe to assume that that specific course is one of those required courses. Would maybe be a good thing to follow.
Yeah, exactly. And even within that, there can sometimes be some variations, I guess I would say, in the way that students complete a degree. And so, if you see if something is not working for you with the way that it's laid out, again, I would say consult with us, because there might be alternatives that aren't listed on that worksheet that we can then help you sort out, right? That's our goal, is to work with you and make sure you're completing in the right sequence, but also in a way that works for you, especially with our programs where there's probably a little bit more flexibility than maybe something like nursing.
When a course says it's on Mondays and Wednesdays, let's say, do we pick one day, or will the class be on both days? I can answer that. If the course says Mondays and Wednesdays, then you will have to register for both the Monday and Wednesday. So if that lecture section says the day is Monday and Wednesday, from say 8:30 till 10, the class will be Monday and Wednesday. It might be that there's different sections, so like one row says Monday and the next one says Wednesday, then you can pick between one or the other. But if it's all in the same row, then you would need to register, pick both Monday and Wednesday. I'm just looking if there are any more questions. Someone's asked under location, it says consult department. Where is that where is that located? So typically, I'm just going to read out the answer just so it's here, but typically when the location says it's listed as C/D, and so it's either an online or an asynchronous course, or they just haven't picked a location yet. But you'd want to just reach out to the department and confirm what's going on there. Someone's asked for certificates. Is there anything that needs to be done in first year course selection?
Jump in there just for, and there might be different answers for different programs. I would say, again, consultant advisor, if you're thinking about pursuing a certificate, it's possible that you might want to select a course in first year that would then enable you to more easily jump into other required courses in that certificate in second year. It probably depends on the certificate. I would say for most of the ones that our students pursue, it's not dire that they take a certain first year course to move on, but sometimes it's helpful. So again, it probably depends on what you're looking at. And we're happy to share the options for those certificates are they're in the academic calendar. And if you want to talk through those or what ones might be common for students in your program or your interests, then again, that's a conversation that we can have through an advising meeting.
Wonderful, thank you. Does that answer change a little for health sciences, or would that be the same?
It's pretty much the same. The certificates, there's not a certificate for the nuclear medicine or radiological technology. It's more like an MRI certificate at the end for the imaging disciplines. There are certificates for diagnostic medical ultrasound. So we have a vascular certificate and a cardiac certificate. And you typically, because all of our curriculum is sequential, their certificate, I guess courses are more at the end of the program. So you can either declare if you want to do the certificate, and then it'll lead you into those specific courses. But usually it's at the end of the program once you have the foundation for the degree first.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yep.
I think that might be all of our questions. So that's wonderful. Thank you so much for joining. I don't know if anyone has anything else they'd like to add. They've got that.
There was one question in there that said, can we have the emails of advisors if we need to talk to them? So I know Colleen added for health sciences, and I added a note over in the chat with our email addresses for anybody that needs those.
Wonderful. And I'll email that out as well. Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you very much for joining. Hopefully this has kind of made the registration process hopefully a little clearer for you, and you're feeling a little more ready for registration day on June 7th, and everything goes smoothly. Again, the recording, a copy of the slides will be sent to you, as well as the contact information too. But if not, I hope you all have a wonderful night, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.